This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, brought to you by Sitka Gear. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Yeti. Thank you Sitka Gear and Yeti for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems. Well, here we are with the man, the myth, and none other than the legend himself, Mr. Peter frickin' Gutsche. Brother, how you doing? Great to see you.
Good, buddy. Good. How about yourself there?
It doesn't matter how I'm doing. It's just what's going on in the land of Peter. I'm doing good though. Thanks for asking, and great to freaking get back on here. It's you're a co-host, so it's between kind of myself, you, and Greg, and it's been forever. But you've been a busy boy, and for all the right reasons: family, hunting, conservation. Just a litany of good things happening over in the Okanagan there.
Yeah, you betcha. You know, the Wild Sheep Society sucked me in a number of years ago, and I just can't seem to pull myself away from it. So it keeps expanding my horizons in life, and yeah, I couldn't be more grateful for it.
Yeah, it's awesome. You're crushing it too, man. It's fun to watch guys on the board, and now you've seen it, right? And it's just like, guys get involved and they kind of have an idea what they want to do, and just to see people grow and find their niche and just like flourish in that role. And certainly that's been the case with you. And it's been a good couple of years here for conservation in British Columbia and for wild sheep, and it's been a lot of fun. And you've certainly found your role in the society and your passion, and not that you didn't right from the get-go, but man, you got your wheelhouse now and you're just crushing it.
Yeah, for sure. Don't feel like it exactly, but working hard anyway and making progress. So yeah, super happy to be kind of where I'm at right now. And yeah, got into the society many years ago because of the original Psoroptes project that was going on here, and that was my intro, taking my kid out there to feed the sheep once a week. And yeah, it's now kind of come full circle for me to get to spend a bunch of time out here with the next version of the project.
And really to be the lead on it for the society, like obviously Okanagan Nation Alliance is heavily involved, and other entities too. But you've jumped in with both feet, and you're our go-to guy. And when people are going to start talking about Psoroptes and Okanagan Bighorn, there's a couple names that'll come up. Mackenzie's and yours for sure. So it's awesome, dude. Well done.
Thank you very much, and appreciate the opportunity to be as involved as I am with it.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so let's start back with that early history. You talked about getting involved because of Psoroptes and the treatment trials, and that was before my time. So actually, you probably were more involved than I was in the early days in that capacity. That's for sure. Talk a little bit about that, because I didn't even really know. I seen some stuff going on in the society. I feel like we were kind of on the periphery, like it was kind of being led, like Dr. Herring was involved, JOABC was involved with it, and other entities. And I was kind of on the outskirts. I just kind of got involved right at that time. I guess that was, both of us were coming on then. So fill me in on that whole thing. Who was leading it and kind of what they were doing back in those days?
Yeah, I'll do as best as I can, because I really came onto it in the very tail end of the project itself. But it was running kind of in that 2017, 2018 timeframe. And at the time, it was a PhD study by Dr. Adam Herring. And so he was testing out a drug trial on these Psoroptes infected sheep here in the western half of the Okanagan Valley, and in around Penticton and down into the Ashinola there. And so they captured a number of sheep and had them in a couple of pens in Penticton at the time. And I kind of caught wind of it just because I was living in Penticton, and found out, oh, there's this sheep project. And I was just a member of the society at the time, and kind of heard through it. I think maybe it was in one of the magazines or an email way back when, but I kind of caught on to it, and then had a conversation with Rodney Zeman, who was our president at the time. And he had been heavily involved in the project on the Sheep Society side of things, doing a bunch of feeding and handling and all that. And he was actually looking to get out of the feeding, because he'd been doing it for, I think, well over a year at that point. And, he had young kids at home and everything else. And so I kind of just jumped at the opportunity to take his place on that feeding aspect. And that was really my intro to it. But yeah, the study was was shorter than what we're going to do this time around. And again, it was because it was for a PhD thesis. And so once they kind of found the conclusions that they needed to find for that, that was the end of the project.
Um, who was kind of the lead on that? Like, so I didn't realize the society was quite vested as they were with and I know that was all volunteer stuff, too. So that was a huge commitment on, like Rodney's part and your part. But like, who was the lead on that? And like, who was like, obviously Adam was um, he was doing the study, but was Okanagan Nation Alliance, PIB, involved with that? Who was all in it?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm forgive me anyone that's listening because I'm probably going to miss some people here. But I know ONA was involved. Kalen Glasser was out during that stuff. I know from BC Gov at the time, Craig McLean and Andrew Walker were both out there. And then obviously Dr. Helen Schwanscha was also heavily involved in it at the time, being the provincial wildlife vet. So I think it was kind of a similar combination here where kind of what we're doing now with the Sheep Society, we've taken a bigger role this time around, but we were involved, ONA was involved, BC Gov was involved, and then probably a number of other stakeholders and entities that I'm unaware of.
Very cool. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. The cool thing about this project is just like the insane collaboration, right? Like there's so many pieces to this puzzle, and we're going to put all these pieces together today for our listeners. But I think before we jump into that part, um, let's talk a little bit about the Okanagan Bighorns, kind of some of the challenges that they're having, what our numbers look like, and then also a little bit about what is Psoroptes like, so people have a bit of, and let's. So I can't wait to hear Dr. Gutsche put his science hat on and explain Psoroptes because I can never do it.
And I mean, man, I can only do a certain amount of a good job on this. I'm no wildlife professional by any stretch, but yeah, Psoroptes is it's a mite, so it's an ear mite, tiny little critter. You could have potentially thousands of them living inside one ear of a sheep, and so the the version that these sheep have is actually a rabbit version of the Psoroptes mite. There is an ovis version as well, but these guys have the rabbit version, and it's since been discovered. And this was in that last trial that they did. They kind of figured this out because they tested these little critters and found out exactly what they were. And so they determined it's a rabbit version of it, and then they went back a bit further and they kind of found out that it probably came from the old Okanagan game farm, which closed in, I believe it was 1999, but it was on PIB land, kind of between Culloden and Penticton for anyone that knows the valley. So really like 10 kilometers away from Penticton. With a bunch of, it's in the heart of bighorn habitat here in the Okanagan. So they had bighorn sheep at that game farm at the time, and when the game farm closed, they just released them back out into the wild right there. And so they suspect that that's kind of where the whole disease came from in the first place. Um, they were feeding rabbits to some of the predators that they had there. So they had lions and tigers and things of that nature, and they were feeding these rabbits to them. And there was kind of as they checked back on it, they found out that, oh, some of these rabbits had crusty ears way back, almost 30 years ago now. So that's kind of the origin of the Psoroptes mite here with the sheep in the valley. It was first documented in 2011. There was a real gross looking ram that was living out by Olala. I think it was along the highway somewhere, and someone took a photo of it, and yeah, it just was not looking very healthy. So missing huge chunks of hair on its body and all that. So I think they euthanized that ram, and then they did some testing and found out, a little bit more. And then over the years, they subsequently learned even more about it. So that's kind of the origins of it. At this point, we know that it's spread basically from Penticton down the west side of the valley, through Karamios and the Sinilkameen Valley and into the Ashnola. So all of those sheep that live in there, which I don't know the historical numbers 30 years ago or so, but it was probably close-ish to 1,000 maybe. They're now more like 300 or so sheep that live in that range. And we suspect that the primary cause of that decline is from this Psoroptes disease that they have. And so what it does, these mites, they live in the ears predominantly, but they can spread throughout the body. They kind of reproduce, they feed on dead skin, and mucousy kind of gross stuff that the bodies secrete. And and they just basically cause the overall health of the sheep to deteriorate. They don't actually kill the sheep like, talking Movi, they can get pneumonia and die from that kind of pretty quickly. These ones just live like all their lifetime with these mites living on them all over their bodies. And so it's just a slow deterioration. There's, potential impacts to their hearing and things of that nature where they could then become more susceptible to predation. But really, it's just like this slow burn that causes just a long timeline population decline.
Right on. Crazy, crazy disease. And then I think a key point for me too, and this comes back to our collaboration aspect, is that these sheep some of them are transborder sheep. Certainly they venture down to Washington State. So this is a shared issue with the Washington State, Washington Wild Sheep Foundation, First Nations in Washington, like, for example, the Colville Tribe and others as well. And I think it's well documented that in Mount Hall in the Washington State, there's cases of Movi. So this is a scenario that we're kind of tackling collectively. BC is kind of taking the lead on it, Okanagan Nation Alliance specifically, but it's going to benefit certainly those sheep. I was talking to Peregrine Wolf of the Wild Sheep Foundation this past weekend, and she was saying that there's other cases of Psoroptes with other bighorns. So the findings from this trial will benefit wild sheep, certainly in BC and Washington, but likely well beyond those borders as well.
For sure. There's been a ton of heavy lifting from a lot of people the last couple of years to get the project to the point that it's actually finally kind of gotten off the ground now over the course of the last couple of weeks. I know Craig McLean was heavily involved for many years talking about this disease with his counterparts on the Washington State side of things. And then ONA, Mackenzie Clark, like you mentioned, and Kaylin Glasser as well. They've been, huge in pushing this awareness throughout the Indigenous community here in the Valley, and helping to get Colville Confederated tribes on board. And there's really is like just a ton of collaboration that we're seeing because of this project, because really everybody wants to see these sheep doing better and getting back to a healthy baseline.
Pete, talk a little bit about, so there was the work done in 1617 by Dr. Adam Herring. But my understanding is that they didn't get all the information they needed. And then there's some new technology out there, some new meds that can help these sheep potentially. And then maybe tee up the symposium that we held in February last year, and kind of all these moving parts that have sort of brought us to where we are today.
I'll do the best I can here. So that initial project was, they were using a drug called Floraliner, and it was basically like a pellet that the drug was in. So it needed to be ingested by the sheep, and in order to do that, we had to basically force feed them through this. I don't know what the actual technical term for it is, but it was a plastic contraption that you ram down the sheep's throat, and you force this pellet down into their esophagus, and you wait for them to gulp, and then you know that it's entered their body. And so that was what we had at the time. That was the best technology that we knew of, and it worked to a degree. So they were able to treat, I think, the vast majority, if not all, the sheep that they treated. But it only lasted for about 3 months or so, and then they would get reinfected with it again. And so it made the sheep that were in the pens healthy for sure. And we actually, one of the sheep we just captured last 2 weeks ago, it was right from in and around the pens, and when we brought it in, it was the healthiest looking sheep of any of the one that we caught. Its ears were looking really good, and it was an old ear tagged ewe, and we're still awaiting blood samples back and things of that nature. But we highly suspect that it was one of the sheep that was in that initial trial many years ago. And so maybe there are some lasting effects from it. So with that project, there was a lot of conversation, and Helen was a huge proponent of this and helping start up a Okanagan Bighorn Disease Symposium last year at our Penticton show. Chris Barker, obviously our head projects guy, he was heavily involved in that as well. And so we hosted this symposium. It was a 1-day event on the Thursday before the show last year. And we basically flew in scientists from kind of, I mean, all over the world's not a stretch, but we had a real expert from the UK, who deals with sheep scab, which is seroptic mange in domestic sheep all over the UK. He's kind of one of the head guys over there. And so he came out. There was just a ton of collaboration within the scientific community because of that day, and then also within the greater Okanagan population of people that are interested in sheep. And so that's really what kickstarted this project this time around, because he was able to kind of educate some of us on um, the newer technologies that he's got over there. And so we now have two drugs that we're going to try this time around. They're no longer an ingestible thing. It's now a simple injection that we can give the sheep. So capture them quickly, give them a shot of this drug, and you could release them again theoretically right away. So a lot easier to do. Um, Part of this project is going to find out how well do these drugs work, how long do they work for, and then in a world full of hope, rose-colored glasses on. Can we translate this to on the landscape and do a full herd kind of cleanse of this disease down the road? That would be kind of the follow-up to what this project is. But that's what we're all kind of crossing our fingers for and hoping for.
Awesome. So um, we've gotten to this point now. So I guess let's talk about the logistics side of it. So there was 2016, 2017. There was pens set up on Penticton Indian Band's land, and so that was used. And so those were existing, and then we had to go back in there, and obviously, that was 7, 8 years ago now. So they've been run down. So there's a lot of logistical work done. So you've been really heavily involved on the ground on this project for months now. So let's just talk about where we got to, like what it took us to get to this place where we are right now, having just captured the sheep a week or two ago.
So I mean, tons of meetings between a lot of people. Again, like Craig McLean and Mackenzie Clark were probably the two most heavily involved over the last little bit. Craig transferred over to Parks back in the summer, so he's less involved with it now that it's actually off the ground. But he was definitely integral to helping get this where it is. And Mackenzie's like she's the star of this thing, man. She's been pushing so hard with so many people to get this going. So like hours she's put into this over the last year and a half. And then on the ground side of things, we had to fix up the previous two old pens, and then we built two other pens right beside them. So we've now got four pens sitting side by side by side by side. And so a lot of work was done there. We've had to hire some contractors for some of it, and we've had some local contacts as well who are members of the Sheep Society. And I'll throw out Andrew Spear here. He brought his crew out from Red Stag Construction, and they came out and basically slapped up one of these chutes and shelters for us free of charge. He just pulled his guys off the job site for a day, and we made it happen. So there's been a lot of hands involved for sure. Another guy, Michael Hale, who's another member here in Penticton, he was out for all 4 days of the capture, just put his work aside. He's been working alongside me kind of day in and day out, doing whatever labor needed to be done on the pens. Just massive volunteer support from our membership for this. And there's been technicians from PIB Natural Resources and from ONA, from their Natural Resources Department too, that have been working beside me too. Delaney Hall and Gemma, if you guys are listening, like, can't thank you enough for all the support that you guys have given this project as well. It's been huge. Like, it's really many hands making light work, and there's been a lot of work. So it's been great to have everybody involved.
Yeah, awesome. And I think we should just touch a little bit on the importance of this collaboration with Okanagan Nation Alliance, the society. Maybe if you want to touch a little bit about the memorandum of understanding and the shared values around bighorn sheep in the Okanagan Valley, and how we've sort of to me this is a success story for BC's got this new vision of what Together for Wildlife looks like in co-management. And I guess maybe we can't go that far on the co-management side, but certainly when we talk about collaboration and like we've got the indigenous and non-indigenous entities working together, to me this is like a hallmark of what it should be.
100%. I think we've had a great relationship with ONA for a number of years already, and we really took it up a notch last year. Yourself, Chris Barker, Greg Rensmag, and we were all out visiting PIB land and signed that memorandum of understanding with ONA. And James Pepper signed it on behalf of them, and Kaylin was there, and Mackenzie, and um, it really kind of just was a little bit of a stamp on like how official we want to make this, that we're really serious about this work. We really care about wild sheep, and we really want to see them flourishing, and we're willing to put whatever differences we might have aside for the sake of this goal. And it's been really really awesome to be a part of it. I've met a ton of people here in the valley because of that, right? It's just been it's really been incredible, and it gives me hope for the future that, you know, we can actually work together and get along and do some good things and make a positive difference.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we talked about relationships. We talked about, let's talk a little bit on the funding side. So obviously, this is a significant undertaking. We've got some pretty serious capital infrastructure there. There's a lot of investment in terms of, all kinds of stuff. So the fencing, and just maybe when we get into this, talk about it's not just a four-wire fence we're putting up here. These are freaking wild sheep and they're wild animals, and so it's like there's a lot of infrastructure that's gone into it, and then just stuff that I'm sure people think about it but don't think about it. Getting the hay and the water and just the labor and the manpower to feed these animals and water these animals for the next 18 to 24 months. It's just a massive undertaking.
Yeah, for sure, man. There's so many moving parts to it. Um, yeah, so again, they're wild sheep, like you just mentioned. They're a basic fence isn't going to work. So we have like full wildlife fencing, like you'd see along the highway on the Coquihalla or wherever else. We've got that, and then on top of that, we've got a three wire kind of high wire systems to make the fences even taller, to prevent these sheep, even getting the thought of jumping out or trying to jump out. So that's the actual enclosure itself, and then within each of these pens, there's a shelter building for them so that they can get away from the sun or the wind or the rain if they choose to. And then we've got a corral and a chute system built into each of these pens, and that's because on a monthly basis we need to handle these animals and test them out. We're going to be checking their weights. We're going to be taking blood samples, hair samples, fecal samples, nasal samples, you name it. They're getting the full run here from the doctors, and so to do that in a without having to tranquilize them and stuff, you got to be able to push them into something. So that's what we've got is this chute system, and then you can herd them into there, and then you can handle them, get blindfolds on them and hobbles, and actually work on the animal, and then release them. They're still within the pen. So that's kind of the system that we're going to use. Again, we're going to handle them on almost a monthly basis. They'll probably skip a month in the summertime if the weather's too hot, because you don't want to be causing any undue damage to the sheep, or causing them stress and stuff. So you got to have the right conditions for that. But then, yeah, we've got 4 sea cans sitting up there that we're renting for the duration of the project. So the next 15 to 18 months, give or take. They're all stuffed full of hay right now, and then we've got a bunch of supplies in there as well. And then I guess so we've got water for the sheep, which certain times of the year they don't need it as much, but certainly in the summertime they're going to need tons of water. So we've got all these containers sitting up at the pens full of water. We've got to organize delivery for that and everything else. So there's a ton going on with it, and again, speaking to many hands making light work, there's a bunch of us kind of heavily involved in this. To each person has their own tasks, and we've all been pretty diligent about handling what's on our to-do list and working together and communicating well with each other to make sure that we are on top of everything.
Yeah, right on. Now, you built the pens, everything's a go, and so talk about the capture work. How did you guys capture that? And you've been so bloody busy, man. I haven't even I know how you did it, but I don't even know what your role was. I'm guessing you weren't sitting at home doing nothing. I'm guessing you were heavily involved out there. I want to hear all about it. So for our listeners, talk about how you got these bloody pens filled with sheep.
Yeah, so the actual capture work, we had to do almost all of it. Well, actually, all of it so far by helicopter capture, unfortunately, but also fortunately because it's kind of the most efficient way to do it. We were really hoping to do a drop net capture similar to what we've been trying to do in Pavilion for the Movi project the last 3 winters now, and we had the same issues that Chris Proctor's been facing up there with it, in that winter didn't cooperate with us. The sheep never came into the bait site, and we just never even got a sniff of trying to capture them that way. And so uh, the legend himself, the recent Lex Ross Award winner, Ben Barakoff of Canadian Wildlife Capture, he was out here for 4 days. And so him, Andrew Walker from BC Gov, and Mackenzie Clark, those were the three in the chopper, buzzing around everywhere. And then we did 4 days of capture. So the first day we started right at Penticton, right at the pens, and there's sheep living right outside the pens, and they were right outside the pens the first day we started capture. So we had a crew of, I want to say it was about 10 of us in the pen that day, kind of just waiting for them to sling sheep into us because they were as close as they were. So that's what we did for day one. Matt McPherson's a wildlife biologist with PIB. He was kind of the head guy within the pens. Kaylin Glasser from ONA was there, and then myself. And then we had a number of volunteers. There were some PIB members and some Wild Sheep Society members, and we were all kind of just there, being the on the ground crew to receive these sheep in the pens. And so, if you've ever seen any videos or anything online, net gunning, with a helicopter for sheep is pretty rad work as far as I'm concerned. So they're flying around, they're buzzing these sheep, and Ben's the best in the business, I think, with this. I'm maybe biased just because I've got to work alongside him, but he's a truly exceptional pilot. He's got a ton of experience with wildlife work, and so they go out, they basically fly these sheep down, shoot them with a net gun, and then they jump out of the helicopter, and they truss the sheep up. They put them in bags, so they're blindfolded and hobbled. They go into a bag, and they get slung directly under the helicopter right into the pen. And then on our end in the pen, we're basically receiving these sheep. We're ear tagging them right away. We're collecting all the health samples that we can, and then releasing them from there. And so, yeah, 4 days of that. So the first day was in Penticton. The second day we started in Penticton again. It was a bit slow going. We captured what we thought was most of the sheep that were right in the immediate vicinity. And so then we moved down to the Karamio-Sashanola area. And then with that, we had to trailer the sheep back to Penticton. So we had our same setup, just no pen. They're slinging the sheep into us at a location. We're doing our handling and sampling, and then we're putting them into a horse trailer. And so Dean Ficacello was huge in that. He came down all 4 days of the capture with his horse trailer, whether it was needed or not for the day. And yeah, that's kind of how it went. So we ended up doing 3 days of capture down that way. Captured sheep from a bunch of different areas, and it's tough with a helicopter sometimes because if the sheep are too close to private land, if there's a bunch of access issues, there's a bunch of stuff you can kind of go sideways on you if you're not careful. So we really had to be cautious about where we were trying to capture sheep, and there was a number of considerations for sure for the flight crew and even the ground crew to navigate to make sure that we were doing this in the best interest of us and in the best interest of the sheep. But yeah, tons of people coming together to make it all happen. And it was a really good time. It was a really good relationship building time for the people that were together. Like us on the ground, you've got downtime in between sheep coming in. You're kind of just hanging out and getting to know each other a bit more. Many of us had never met before that day, and it felt like a family. Like it felt like you were just old friends, and you could just talk about whatever you wanted to right then and there. And there was just nobody had any barriers up. It was just open, good conversation. And so it was really, to me, it was impactful to know that there's just people from all walks of life coming together for that.
Right on. That's awesome, man. So sheep are in the pens. You guys captured, I think you maybe mentioned, I can't remember, but 28 you had. And then, so next steps are I think you mentioned we wait a little bit of time and then we start the treatment process. And this is going to go on for up to 18 months.
Yeah, you betcha. So sheep are in the pens. We've been monitoring them every day. I've been out there kind of almost every day since. Matt McPherson and his team of technicians, they're coming out as well. And yeah, between us, we're kind of the lead people on the feeding and caretaking side of things. So for right now, we're just letting the sheep get used to their new surroundings. I don't want to be stressing them out too much too quickly after getting net gunned and slung from wherever and thrown in a horse trailer and all of these things that are totally not normal for them to do. So you give them about a month, give or take, to kind of get used to the new surroundings, and then we'll do a handling day. I don't have a date yet, but I would assume it's going to be very late March, but more likely in early April sometime will be the first handling of them. And that's kind of the beginning of the project. So we're gonna be taking more samples out of them, probably giving them some drugs depending which pen they're in. And so how that works, I mentioned 4 pens in total. So one of the pens is going to have one of these drugs. The second pen is going to have the other drug. The third pen is going to have kind of a combination of the two drugs, and then the fourth pen is going to be a control herd. So they're going to be left untreated for the time being, and then if and when the sheep in the pens that are getting medication clear the Psoroptes and they're considered okay, we're going to introduce the dirty or sick sheep to those pens to then determine how long does it take before these sheep get reinfected with it, if they do at all. So that's why there's the duration of 15 to 18 months. We don't know how long things are going to take, but we know that it's not something you can just do in a couple months and walk away from.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the treatment. So you mentioned the early stuff. It was basically had to force feed this stuff to them. What's the new drug like? My understanding, there's two types of drugs. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I can't pronounce the names properly, so I'm not gonna even try to, but they're both injectable drugs. So it's just, here's your vaccine. Essentially, it's not a vaccine, it's a medicine, but here's your liquefied drug that you can just shoot into your body with a syringe. And so a lot easier to do on an animal than trying to shove something down its throat and force feed it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's going to be. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh, that's okay. It was interesting. Somebody had asked me. I did a presentation to the Wild Sheep Foundation this past weekend. Somebody said, "Well, how like okay, you let's say it's successful. It's a good like how do we treat all these wild animals?" And so somebody did say it was injectable, and I think at one point, I don't know if it was Helen or somebody mentioned that there's a possibility you could do some. I don't know, it was McLean, I think, mentioned that you could possibly do some, like you could dart these things, right? And that's another way of treating them potentially, depending on the success of the program and how if it is a vaccine that does prove effective.
For sure, that's the exciting part about this, to me at least, is that if these drugs are working as well as we hope that they might, is that there's real world possibilities with it, that you could go out and you could actually treat, similar to what we're doing with Movi, where we're capturing and testing every single sheep out there. You could do the same thing with this, and potentially just be able to blanket treat the entire herd. And if that could still take multiple years to do that, but you could do it systematically and work from one U group to the next, hit this band of rams wherever they may be, and you could work it across.
Yeah, right on. And my understanding, was it all ewes that you captured on this one, or was there some rams in there, or are they young rams? What kind of composition is it?
So it's all ewes and yearlings. So there are some male yearlings in the mix for sure. But you don't want to be mixing ewes and rams in close proximity for an extended period of time. They just don't get along as well. The rams will start to chase the ewes around and whatever else. And so it's gonna lead to other problems within the herd there. So it's all ewes. I would say there's probably 7 or 8 of the 28 are yearlings, somewhere in that neighborhood, and maybe 3 or 4 of them are young rams, or like yearling rams. So we do have that mixture in there. There's kind of a combination of ewes and lambs, and but that's kind of the way you got to do it for this at least.
Right on. Um, and then my understanding is that this gentleman that we brought over from Scotland for the symposium last February, is an expert, and there's two primary vaccines that they used on these domestic sheep, and they're confident, or they have a high confidence that they're going to be very successful with the wild variety as well. So we're basically trying those two drug treatments, and then that'll kind of establish the baseline moving forward of whether or not it's successful. And then I think you told me like there's the three different pens, so they're going to try one vaccine on one vaccine on the other, and then a combo on the third pen. Is that correct?
That's my understanding of it, at least. And so that's Dr. Stuart Burgess. He's yeah from the UK, and he's their head guy over there for Psoroptes within the domestic sheep population. So yeah, these two different medications that we're going to try out. He seems to be under the impression that we're going to find success with them, and we're all definitely hoping that's the case. But yeah, really, really only time will tell.
Very cool. Um, so we got them in the pens. So the treatment trial starts, and then um, who's doing this? Is this something that Mackenzie and her team's going to be involved in? Is it something that Kylie Thacker is the provincial wildlife veterinarian for the province? Is she going to be involved? Like, who's going to do these next steps in the treatment process?
It's going to be a combination of things. Like Mackenzie's the project lead for this, so she's kind of the one doing all the heavy lifting when it comes to the organization of everything. But as a wildlife biologist, she doesn't have the same um, background as a wildlife veterinarian would have. So having someone like Kylie Thacker there, I know there's conversation about getting Dr. Adam Herring back for it. He had obviously a ton of work the first go around, so he's very familiar with kind of this process with handling wild sheep in this scenario. He'll probably be involved with it, and then potentially others as well. I'm sure we'll see Helen out there at some point along the way too.
Yeah.
Hard to keep her away from wild sheep for too long. So um, it's a team thing, right? Even within the scientific community, right? The biologists and the veterinarians are working together on this because each of them are bringing their own backgrounds and perspectives to how this needs to go, and then yeah, a bunch of hands on deck too, guys like me that don't know all that much, but are keen to help out in whatever way we can. So there's going to be volunteers required as well for this. I've kind of been putting out the word on that Okanagan Bighorns Instagram account. I've currently got probably 40 people signed up that want to partake in this, and then I know there's big interest from the PIB and ONA community as well to have their people come out and be involved with this too. So we'll be kind of the whatever we need to be laborers for this work and following the direction of the professionals.
Yeah, right on. So obviously a heavy lift here. Like this is a several $100,000 project, multi years. So as we talked about, ONA's done a great job of taking the lead on it. It's on PIB's land. There was the existing infrastructure there with some of the pens, but there was a pretty big capital investment in that. So like literally we're talking, 200, close to $250,000 in investment on this. And there's a whole bunch of things that go into it. So funding's been a big part of that. And one of the things that's exciting for me, Peter, is that the Wild Sheep Foundation, their chapter and affiliates, through an appeal, and it was an appeal that was dated back a couple of years, 2023. It was in the South Dakota, Black Hills of South Dakota, at Midwest Chapter and Affiliate Summit. We there was a commitment by the Wild Sheep Foundation. They kicked it off with $50,000 and then the Wild Sheep Society BC kicked some money in. So collectively, I think there's $106,000 that was invested through Wild Sheep Foundation, their chapter and affiliate network. So really important piece of it. And then just a couple of weeks ago, Washington Wild Sheep Foundation recognizing the shared benefit for their bighorn sheep. And of course, there's documented cases of Psoroptes in the Mount Hull herd and other herds in down in Washington State. They benefited from it, so they've come on. So really, two made the society on the funding side of it, along with Washington Wild Sheep Foundation proper, their chapter and affiliates have done a huge part of it. And now also we've got Hudbay Mining Corporation coming on to contribute as well, because they see the value there. So to me, this gets me fired up and really excited. And that's just the start. Like we haven't even dived into some of this other stuff that's going on. But to see these people have this shared vision for healthy landscapes and healthy wild sheep, it's pretty exciting and pretty inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, there's a ton of capital that's required to pull off a project like this, right? And so, we know internally with the Sheep Society, we're always willing to lift however much we can on projects that we feel are going to make a real impact for things, and then to have that support from the foundation, from chapters within the foundation, like Washington stepping up the way they did it's massive. And then that third part too is something we really need to do a better job of as a society, exploring more is finding corporate sponsorships for things like this. So to have Hud Bay mining step up the way they have really recently, that's awesome for us to use as a promotional tool now to take to other businesses, local businesses here. And that's been a big part of why I wanted to step into this project as well. Was it's my backyard here, right? And I've got some contacts within the community, and I really wanted to just try to leverage those however I can, and really you know drive business owners to look at something like this and say, hey, you can make a difference, in your community here where your business is run, and you can show the other people that live in your town, in your hometown, that you do care about wildlife and that you're willing to make a financial investment in it. And I think, who knows where it will go, but I do have my rose-colored glasses on with this, and I really think we're going to find a lot more support as we start to spread this message more.
Yeah, and the interesting thing on the funding part is there's a lot of work to be done here. So we're working on the Psoroptes, which is one of the like keystone issues right now for these sheep. But they also have MOV. So anyone that knows our community, they know what that's all about. And MOV is one of the big killers of wild sheep, across all jurisdictions, but certainly here in British Columbia, we've got this massive investment in the Fraser River ecosystem. But there's dwindling numbers in the Okanagan Valley as well, right? And again, Washington State's having problems with this. So we're fundraising to the best of our ability, because we know that we're going to tackle the MOV, or we're going to tackle Psoroptes, but then we got to work on the MOV side of thing too. So it's kind of a two-pronged thing. That's one of the things, a lot of jurisdictions, like on the Fraser, there's not a Psoroptes issue, at least not to the level it is in the Okanagan. So, bringing in all these partners is really critical, because we just can't do the heavy lifting on our own. It's just impossible to fund it to the level that we are. So, everyone thinks, oh, there's a lot of money coming in. Well, trust me, we're going to spend it. We're going to spend it on wild sheep and conservation and trying to get, it'd be amazing if we could bring these populations back and see our populations doubled in the Okanagan Valley. And there's probably that opportunity if we can sort some of these disease issues out.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the issue of sheep in the Okanagan, is that, with the exception of the West Side Road herd up north of West Kelowna, all the sheep in the Okanagan here are diseased, right? They've either got Psoroptes if they're on the west side of the valley, or if they live on the east side of the valley, they've got MOV. And so they're all hurting from disease, and the only way they're going to get rid of this disease is by people doing something about it. There's no other way. I mean, MOV can kind of come and go. We don't know everything there is to know about it for sure, but we know it's well documented. Within the last 30 years, there's been two significant die-offs from MOV, one in 1999, early 2000s, and then again in 2021, right? So that's that Vaso Lake herd, all the way up the east side of Skaha, so into anyone living in Heritage Hills or in Penticton itself. All those sheep right up to Okanagan Mountain Park, they've all got it to varying degrees, and their populations are all in decline because of it. And so that's a lot of people see bighorn sheep here in the valley, and I've got friends in the winery industry that they have people coming into their tastings in the middle of summer, and they're proclaiming how they saw these beautiful sheep 10 minutes ago down the road or whatever, but nobody knows that they have disease, right? And so that's really where I feel like we can make a difference for that. We can start to spread that word that, yeah, we do have these beautiful sheep here, but they do need our help, and we can all band together to make that difference for them, and we can do a lot more than we've been able to do in the past if we decide we want to commit to it. And it all starts with education.
Right on, bud. Well, I want to talk about that a little bit, the education piece in a minute. But before we do it, let's talk a little bit about Adopt a Sheep. So we've got these major partners. So of course, us and we've got the Okanagan Nation Alliance. So us heavily invested in that. ONA's on the capital side, they're not doing so much the heavy lifting, but they've got all the in-kind work. They've got all their biologists. They're really the lead on on all the science and all the, management side of it that they're doing there. So, and then we've got Wild Sheep Foundation, their chapter and affiliates. We had the Washington Wild Sheep Foundation. Now we talked a little bit about Hud Bay coming in. And now you've done a really good job of creating this new Adopt a Sheep program. So let's dive into that a little bit. And this is an opportunity for our listeners, if you're listening. And I just had one of our members reach out this morning. He said, "Hey, I want to be part of this." So I got another one for you, buddy. Just teeing that up right now, but somebody else wants to jump in on this Adopt a Sheep program. But let's touch base on that right now.
Yeah, so really the idea was created, and I can't take all the credit for it. It was not just me. Chris Barker was heavily involved in this as well, and yourself and Mackenzie. But yeah, just this concept of creating a sponsorship around this program. It's really unique, right? You're not every day you get to have sheep in captivity, like wild sheep in captivity, for a project that can, really lead to benefits for the whole herd down the road. And so we kind of decided to create this Adopt a Sheep program. So we've got 28 sheep in the pens. There's a good chance we're going to get a couple more. There's a few that are lingering outside the pens right now, and Andrew Walker and I are kind of chatting on the daily to try to get some darts into those sheep and get them moved into the pens as well. So the number could increase, but currently there's 28. And so yeah, we designed this sponsorship, to help supplement the project costs, right? So on average, it's going to cost us about $2,500 to feed and caretake a sheep for the duration of this project. So we decided to make an Adopt a Sheep for $2,500, right? And that's open to anybody that just by themselves or through a business, whatever they want to do. And then you and I were brainstorming some more on this, and we said, well, we got 4 pens. Why don't we do a pen sponsorship, right? In the fall, we need to bring in 4 rams to breed all of these ewes that are going to be in there. So why don't we do an Adopt a Ram sponsorship, right? And then having bigger partners on top of that, an official title project sponsor and things of that nature, right? So we've got this kind of hierarchy built out for this sponsorship program with the idea of raising funds to help pay for this project, right? And like you said, we've done a ton of heavy lifting already ourselves, and WSF and Washington State, right? There's a ton of support already there, but this project really is unique in the way that you can kind of create the olive branch out to somebody that's interested in this, right? You can have your name associated with a specific ear colored sheep that's in these pens. We're going to be documenting these sheep throughout the process, right? So you can kind of get updates on these sheep. We're going to have, because it's in a semi-public place, it is on PIB land, so we do need to be kind of respectful of how many people are going up there. But there are going to be signs built at the pens with everybody that's sponsoring it. There's a lot of good outreach opportunity for certainly local business owners and even people that are from beyond that want to get involved in this, and and be able to say that, hey, I helped this project. I helped these sheep get better. And at the end of the day, again, fingers crossed this project goes as well as it can. Maybe I'm one of the reasons that those sheep that live in the Ashnola or wherever else, they now no longer have Psoroptes. Maybe that's a couple of years down the road or whatever. And most certainly is. But I think that's like a lasting impact that you could have on wildlife that you very rarely do you have an opportunity to do something like that. It's kind of, to me, I look at it as like a little bit of a legacy piece, right? Where, you're able to say to your grandkids one day that, yeah, these sheep used to have this disease. And because I decided to chip in $2,500 or whatever it is, like I helped contribute to them no longer having this. I think that's pretty cool.
It's an incredible legacy, right? And to be able to do that, and I love your vision, Pete. And, you right away you came and you said, "Hey, I want to be part of this. I want to lead it from the society's end and really get involved in it and get the community involved." It's awesome, and I think you're right. Like, I think for people in the local Penticton and the Okanagan region, and sit there and say that we create this legacy that our kids down the road can enjoy these majestic animals, and we're seeing declines. Like, this is a real thing. It's not a joke. It's not something we've made up, and it's incredible if we can have that impact on the landscape and bring these numbers back and fix this, fix the Psoroptes issue, or at least curtail it, or like help deal with the issue, because it is a serious problem. And when you see a sick animal on the side of the road, it's pretty clear that how messed up they are. And it's a pretty horrible way to die too, right? Like you're basically walking around deaf and confused all the time. Well, I guess I kind of feel like that most days, um, but for a sheep, it's a bad way to die. And then obviously going to get hit by car, predation, or 100 other things, starve to death, right? So if we can fix that, we can fix Simovi. It's pretty encouraging, and it'd be amazing to do it.
Yeah, you betcha. I didn't expect this, but when we did the capture work, um, all of the sickest looking sheep were all the yearlings.
Mm.
They look rough. Like there's the odd ewe that looks pretty bad too, but a lot of those yearlings look just in terrible condition, and it makes me wonder, like knowing the population declines that we've had out there, and it's been documented at over 50% since 2011 alone, and who knows how much it was between 1999 and 2011. I don't have those numbers, but I just wonder how many of those yearlings or young sheep don't even make it to be a yearling, because I see the condition of these ones that are almost a year old right now, and yeah, they look terrible. Like they got missing fur and patches on them. Their ears are just full of crusty crap, and they're all droopy. And yeah, it's a sad life knowing that they basically got this from day one, just because they happen to be born in this place that has this right now, right? And it's man, I dream of the day when I can go out on the west side of the valley here and see sheep with nice perky ears and no mites in them.
Do you know why it's so prevalent in the yearlings and it's not the mature? Is it because some of them are not as afflicted and and then they're probably all dying? Is that the theory, or is it? Yeah, not sure.
I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that. I just kind of my observations here this past couple of weeks as I've been looking at all these sheep coming in. A lot of the adult ewes, they got super crusty ears and droopy ears too. But I just noticed the yearlings looked to be in the roughest shape of the sheep that were coming in.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. Just a shout out to a couple other partners that have signed up for our Adopt a Sheep program. We've got Alberta Wild Sheep Foundation is committed to adopt a couple sheep, and Texas Bighorn Society also adopted a couple sheep. So I know, as we mentioned, the Washington Wild Sheep Foundation, the chapter affiliates of that appeal process. Washington Wild Sheep Foundation, through a previous grant, they basically come on as a partner on this program with us. With their level of investment, it was 35,000 US, which is 50,000 Canadian, give or take, with our current dollar situation. And then now we've got Alberta and Texas Bighorn Society stepping up, and others interested too. So am I missing anyone? I'm not sure if there's anyone I've missed there, but just great support for it, and a pivotal project on the landscape, and it's really making a difference. I hope it's going to make a huge difference for our wild sheep. I'm really excited about it. So
You betcha. I mean, yeah, I couldn't say any more to that. I just forever grateful for the support of so many people that know about this through, and it's all within our wild sheep circle for the most part. I think having Hudbay Mining come on now, in a pretty significant dollar amount, that's huge, and that's kind of our next step to now taking this out to the broader population and business owners here that are local and I know from conversations I've just been, I haven't been hard selling anybody yet, but just talking with business owners here, there's a lot of support about this. Again, people don't know anything about it, right? So as soon as you have the conversation with them and you're like, yeah, here's this disease, this is what's going on. People are pretty keen to step up, right? And maybe they don't have the dollar amount, but they're like, oh, well, you can use my business account to buy materials for cheaper, or you can, let me help you build a website or whatever else it is, right? Like all these things, people are just stepping up right away, and it's pretty awesome to see, and I can't wait to continue to help make this grow.
yeah, awesome. I think one thing that I should mention, and I feel pretty strongly about this, Pete, is that the funding for this too is going for the work on the ground, right? So, there's also like a management aspect of it too, right? Like managing the project and everything like that. But that's not what's being paid for. The funding from this is going to capital acquisition of material and building fences. A lot of this, you've done a phenomenal job, and my hat's off to you, of networking in the local community, finding donations, getting, like you said, Andrew Spear and Red Stag Construction. He's got his crew out there. So many of those guys they've got their business accounts through Rona. So you're going out and buying material at, 60, 70 cents on the dollar, getting these incredible reductions, through these contracting rates. So a lot of, so it's not going to pay, so, and then on the other side, Okanagan Nation Alliance, Mackenzie and Kalen and Matt McPherson, they're covering those costs. So we're not paying biologists, and we could, like, it's a legitimate expense, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be, but we're not having to do that because ONA is doing the heavy lifting there. So when you're donating to this project, your money's going towards it. It's going to material costs. It's going to feed. There are some wages. We got to feed people to go pay people there to go feed them and make sure they're watered. And, we've done that on a volunteer basis, but it runs its course. The Rodney Zemans of the world go, oh, I need a break. I need one day off because these animals need to be fed every bloody day. You got to make sure their water is not frozen. It's a really cool project. And there's a lot of moving pieces where there's a lot of in-kind donations, but so the money's not going to the bios or any of the stuff. It's actually going to the hard costs like the feed and all that kind of stuff. And even there's donations on that stuff. I know you've done such a great job, and others too, Chris and others have done a great job on it.
Oh, I mean, it takes a village, right? It's really, yeah, a lot of moving parts and a lot of pieces are happening just because of simple conversations, right? And yeah, it's really cool to see what's become of it so far, and yeah, forever grateful to everyone that has lent their support to date.
Yeah, right on. What else did we need to talk about with this? So if anyone's interested in supporting, how do they get involved? If they want to adopt a sheep or they want to help out in some capacity, volunteer, where do they go? What do they do?
So for adopt a sheep, it's reach out to you and me. Right. So you were kind of the head two honchos on this one. So if you know how to get a hold of Kyle or you know how to get a hold of me, that's kind of your best bet. Aside from that, you can reach out through the Wild Sheep Society channel, any of our socials or any or email, whatever it is online. You can do that, and then the same thing through the Okanagan Bighorns Instagram account. I'm kind of doing that one, so you can reach out through there. You can get a hold of me on my personal one or wherever else. All of our contact info is on the wildsheepsociety.com website. If you want to give us a phone call out of the blue or a text message or an email, whatever it is, like that's your best bet for it. Um, yeah, and then volunteering side, reach out to me. You can get a hold of me at Peter Gutsche on Instagram or um, again, my phone number and my email is on our website. So you can go there and get a hold of me there or the Okanagan Bighorns account. I've got a list going. We're going to be getting some emails out to everybody shortly here. And then yeah, hope to get people out there and it's to me it's a unique opportunity for volunteers, right? I've done a lot of volunteer stuff in the past here with the society, whether it be like a thinning project somewhere or sheep counts or whatever else, and those are all fun and good and all that, and I think they're important personally, and I always love to see people come out to those. But this time around, like you can actually get your hands on a sheep. Like there's on those handling days, and again they're going to be basically monthly. You're going to have your hands on a sheep. Like you're going to get to be hands-on involved with wild sheep conservation work like you can't do on any other project that I'm aware of. So to me, that's really exciting. And yeah, I'd absolutely love to have you out if you're interested.
Right on. And just on a side note, I think you guys captured those 28 sheep. No mortalities, no. This was a really successful capture, which is tough to do because you got helicopters, moving parts, and horse trailers and pens and other sheep and people, and you guys pulled that off, and that's a huge testament to the handling of Ben's work and then the support that you guys were giving him on the ground.
Yeah, for sure. It's been great to see. Like we weren't sure how things were going to go. We kind of, anticipated that we might lose an animal or two within the first week or so. Like it is common that things like that can occur when you're putting as much stress on an animal as we do with these captures. but yeah, everybody's looking good. There was one little ram, one little yearling ram that was looking in pretty rough shape when we came in, and we've been monitoring him and all the other ones kind of daily here. And yeah, just this morning I was out watching him, and he's just feeding with his crew in his pen, and on feeding on natural forage and walking around doing everyday sheep things. So it's great to see, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that it continues. But we're almost 2 weeks in now since we did the first capture, so things are looking up for sure.
Yeah, and then so you mentioned there's 28 in captivity and a bunch are ewes in that are bred. They're pregnant, so there'll be some really cool action there. They're going to have some baby lambs running around there. That is awesome, man. So awesome.
For sure. I mean, we didn't do ultrasounds when we brought the sheep in, so we can't confirm how many are pregnant right now, but we assume that most of them are. That's generally the case. So, yeah, looking forward to a bunch of little ones ripping around the pens here shortly. They should be given birth kind of end of April and into May, that time frame. I think these ones are a little bit later than the ones up in the West Side Road. Those guys are some of the earliest sheep of the year. But yeah, probably into May they'll be given birth, and yeah, it'll be cool to watch these little ones running around. They're always super cute. I know I've got to see that on the South Thompson sheep counts the last couple of years where we've been monitoring ewes up there. So it's pretty neat to see the little ones just being little, yeah, same as any other little animal or little person, right? They're a lot cuter than the adults are. So
Yeah. Talk a little bit before we go about Okanagan Bighorns and about, and the work that you're doing on the communication side, because I think that's what's going to stand this project out from others is that, you're working really hard on this communication piece and sort of telling the story about, the threats to Okanagan Bighorns. You've created your own channel now. I see that's growing every day, like 500 followers or something. You just started that not too long ago. So, super, super cool. And then how do people get there and how can they follow you?
yeah, you betcha. So yeah, again on Instagram, just at Okanagan Bighorns. Um, you'll see a bunch of collaborative posts between the Sheep Society and that account. And really the vision behind it was just that. It's Okanagan Bighorns. It's the issues that the sheep face here in the Okanagan Valley. And my kind of driver to do something there was leaning on the fact that there are as many people as there are living in the Okanagan Valley, and there are as many sheep in the Okanagan Valley as there are, and that knowing me through my involvement with the society, I know all of the challenges, or I know most of the challenges that these sheep are facing, and for me it was just like an outreach tool. How can I get this out to the broader population base, right? And no offense at all at the society, right? But we're made up of 90+% hunters, right? And so some people are going to come to that page, and then they're going to see a bunch of hunting raffles, or they're going to see whatever else, and then they're going to poo-poo it right away just because people are opinionated, and uh, you know I won't talk negatively there, but that's just the way people are, right? So the idea with this one was it's just strictly like an educational tool. It's going to show the good work that's being done for wild sheep, and it's going to talk about the issues that they're facing, and it's going to attempt to get the everyday person involved in it, right? And that's something I personally just really believe that we need to change, not just in BC, but everywhere across North America when it comes to conservation work, right? You and I both know, and probably most of the people listening to this know, that hunters do a ton of heavy lifting when it comes to conservation, and um, I can't be thankful enough for that, right? But we need to get everyone else doing something too, right? And specifically in Canada and BC here, right? We don't have things like the Pittman-Robertson Act where we're funding conservation work by somebody buying a pair of skis or a mountain bike or whatever else, right? We don't have that. It doesn't exist here. So we need to try to get out to the general public the issues that are facing these animals here. And my belief is that when people learn about these things, they will care, right? Helen had a great line to that effect in the transmission film, right, where she just says, you need to teach people about this, and when you teach them about it, they're going to care. And I saw that firsthand when we played that transmission film at the Oliver Movie Theater like 3 or 4 years ago now, whenever it was. People were coming up to us just like, almost in tears because of that film. And they're just like, what can I do? What can I do? How can I make a difference? And we didn't have an answer to give them at the time. It wasn't, I could stand there with my hand open and say, give me your money right now, but we didn't really have anything set up for that. And so my goal with this Okanagan Bighorns account is just that. It's to raise awareness and education about these things and give people the options to do things if they want to, right? Whether that be their time or whether that be their money or whether that be their own ability to network it further within their own realm, right? Whatever that may be, right? And so I think there's a ton of opportunity there. I think I'm only scratching the surface right now. Yeah, and I just know there's a ton of work ahead of me for it, and I can't wait to dive into it all.
Awesome, man. Well, I love your leadership on it, Pete. Love your passion and your commitment, and it's you're kind of our like I don't know, you're our disease bighorn guy, man. Like the blue tongue die off. You're the face of it for the society, right? We had all that shit go down with everything on that, and you were out there and did a ton of heavy lifting and heartbreaking stuff, and you were doing media interviews and just that was a tough one because you're not even reacting, you're just cleaning up the mess, right? The blue tongue thing was nasty, but that's the cool thing is I feel like with this one it's different because we're doing some management actions that could have a lasting impact for these sheep on the landscape. And yeah, we're using science to give us the best possible outcome, and hopefully that we see some real positive outcomes from this project. I'm really excited about it. So yeah,
Hey, you betcha. No, I mean it's just been the right person in the right place is really all it is. Yeah, that blue tongue one was rough for sure, right? And we were down at Jurassic Classic there, and it was going off, and we were talking about it there, and I yeah whipped home and just ripped out to Grand Forks, multiple days on end, and um I don't know, I just something like that comes across and it's devastating, right? But I'm also thinking, well, there's got to be an opportunity here too, right? There's got to be something that we can do with this, and so the simple fact that we were able to network and get CBC to come out there and for me to do a quick interview, whatever, like it's no big deal for me to do. And if it had happened in your backyard, you would have been doing the same thing, right? It's just but it helped get things out there, right? People were talking about wild sheep all of a sudden. They're like, "Oh, there's something going on here. What is this?" And people were reaching out to the society because of it, and they're wanting to learn more and everything else, right? And then, even through, me running around picking up those horns, we were able to do something with them, right? And raise a bunch of money, with the help of Tanner from Frontiersman Gear and Wild Sheep Foundation doing auctions, down at Sheep Show and us doing our auctions and all the people that bought those knives that were created because of that, right? We were able to turn that into 25,000, give or take, whatever it was, of funds that we were able to now redirect into a new project and use something that was devastating and then nothing could be done about it, but turn it into a positive in some way, right? And I think that's what we should all be trying to look at with anything, right? And not just with wild sheep, but anything in life, right? There's always going to be bad stuff happening, but there's always something good that can come out of it too.
yeah, well said. Yeah, it'll be it's a great quote. I love it. So. What are we missing on these sheep? Is there anything we need to talk about on Psoroptes or anything else for that matter? To be honest with you, Pete, but is there anything that we need to wrap this one up on?
I think we hit the nail on the head with most of it there. I mean, we gotta ensure we keep those west side sheep free of disease. That's for damn sure because they're our only healthy ones. Grand Forks herd is healthy too, but they got hit real hard with blue tongue. So I mean they're in pretty dire straits right now, and I know internally we're looking at some options there to help them out down the road. Um, yeah, just for anybody that's listening, if you live in the valley, like pay attention to the sheep around you. Take a look at them. If you're seeing them somewhere you didn't see them before, you can reach out to me or someone at ONA or the PC Gov. Like there's people out there that are monitoring these sheep all the time. Um, yeah, just pay attention and if you feel like somebody that might be interested in doing, like, maybe you can't make a donation yourself, and that's fine. But if you have a friend who you think might be interested, tell them to listen to this podcast or tell them to reach out to me or to Kyle, and we can definitely help educate you on this and try to draw you into our wild sheep family here, right? And that's what it's all about is trying to get these diseases fixed at some point, right? it's Serapies right now, but as you mentioned, it's going to be Movi down the road, right? We're working on that too in the back channels, and how do we tackle that here in the valley, right? It's going to be, in my opinion, a few years of hard work here for wild sheep in the Okanagan to try to rid them of these diseases. So we need all the help we can get.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway for me too is that, there's more than one way to help, right? Like it's not always writing a check. And, we've mentioned Andrew twice. We might as well mention him a third time here, time, talent, and treasure. So, he's using his special skills and his crew to come out, and it's costing him money, obviously, but it's also, he didn't need to make the big cash donation to make a huge difference for wild sheep. He came out and he literally saved us thousands of dollars and benefited this resource. And then also like for people outside our community, like this is a great opportunity for people to get involved and make a difference in their community. Like you'll do it for your hospital, you'll do it for your school, and yeah, that all benefits people. But I think anyone that's really serious about seeing wild sheep in the landscape in the Okanagan region, this is your opportunity to make that difference. And if you like driving down the road and seeing those bighorn sheep on the side of the road, this is your opportunity to make that difference. And yeah, it's going to have a lasting, meaningful impact for generations to come. Because if we don't do anything, we've seen how that turns out, and it's usually not very well.
You betcha. I couldn't say it any better.
Yeah, awesome. Well, buddy, should we call it a night, or is there anything else we want to chat on? I could talk to you for 4 hours, and I wouldn't get tired of it. But if we talk any longer, and I know you also have commitments tonight, but we'd have to get some Blue Bunch out, or maybe get the Tatch and Shinny out. But
You betcha. Yeah, no, we'll do another one someday here shortly, and we can chat about whatever else we want to chat about for sure. But I think, yeah, we think we covered everything here for bighorn stuff in the Okanagan for the time being.
awesome. Actually, on that note, do you like Tatch and Shinny? Which of the whiskeys is your favorite? Is Blue Bunch your favorite, or which one is?
I do like the Tatch and Shinny. I still think the Chadwick's my number one.
Yeah,
And
nice.
I'm just, yeah, I like the single malts. I like that style, and so yeah, that one's just speaks to me. I didn't have enough Taschenchini to make a real good firm decision yet, so I'll have to tap into some more of that here before too long.
Yeah, it's calling. So anyway, for our listeners, Wild Sheep Society BC, we do our signature whiskey every year. We've done it for 4 years now, and this year we have our Tatch and Shinny Glacial out. Okanagan Spirits has it for sale on their website. Just Google Okanagan Spirits, start a Vernon there. You can do a local pickup, or you can ship it in the Okanagan Valley for next to nothing. I think if you buy 2 bottles, it's free shipping. I'm probably speaking out of school here, but the website says it all. But check it out. And the cool thing is every sip is helping to put or keep wild sheep back on the mountains of British Columbia. So great opportunity. That stuff is on a limited release. It's going to sell out. It's a single malt. It's beautiful. I love it. So don't miss it, or you'll. We told you so. Is all I'm saying.
That's right. Yeah, enjoy some whiskey and save wild sheep. That's a deadly combination as far as I'm concerned.
Love it. Love it. Well, brother, thank you so much. Again, you got Pete's contact info, so get involved, whether it be time, talent, treasure, whether you want to volunteer your time, you want to come out, support, maybe you've got a little bit of extra capital that you can help out with the project. All of it is necessary. All of it's welcome, and all of it's really, really important to making sure that we leave a legacy for those Okanagan Bighorn, California Bighorn sheep.
Betcha, buddy. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.